if you open a document, it might be an RTF, or it might be a doc or a docx or whatever, it looks the same to you inside Word, because inside Word's doing the same thing. It's the same kind of concept. So the secret of the sauce is, maintaining those database-like relationships for every single radio, and that's why it's possible to move data from one radio to another in Contact Manager, because it's every time you load a code plug, it's bringing it into that common format. So I got off on a tangent. You guys can slap me, but that's a big part of the thing. Would you guys like to kind of, I'm assuming you can see our screen. Would you like me to kind of walk through some pieces with you with it?
Yeah.
Kind of neat stuff, and maybe show you some tricks that are not on the website. We're going to do I've got some tools, and I'm going to start doing some instructional videos, so you'll get to hear my boring voice more on YouTube. But a lot of people don't know that you can open up many copies of the app at the same time. There's no restriction on that. So you can have, dozens and dozens and dozens of this thing open, and it's not going to bother it. That's real handy. For example, a lot of people don't know this, is you can open the same code plug in 3 different instances of Contact Manager. Why would you want to do that? Yeah, why would you want to do that? Because you might want to do a what-if analysis of what if I change something here? What will it look like? Well, at the same time, you're still maintaining a good copy of it, which you could then go back to the one that's good and save it. So it's kind of a pretty little trick, but you can do that because Contact Manager does not squat on the file. Once it's read it's unlocked and it can be read by something else. How many of you have converted code plugs from one radio to another? Just raise your hand.
You can't see it, but there are 3 people in here that are using Contact Manager that have done that, and I'm one of them.
Okay. And you're welcome. That was an idea I threw at Tom over coffee at an IHOP. I wrote it on a napkin. Yeah, literally. He wanted to know what he could do to make my life simpler and help in the growth of our system. I said, Tom, we get radios out there. We need to be able to convert, and we had it by the weekend. So that's where that concept came from, and it has made my life so simple. So, well, you guys we can mess around with some features here, and maybe show you some of the newer stuff that's kind of interesting as well. I'm going to open up, I just bought me a new Anytone 868. So I'm going to open that up. So there is a blank 868. Now, one thing with the Anytone is that in working with Anytone, they use their code plug formats. So when if you are saving in like the Anytone CPS 1.26 or later, Contact Manager will not read that, but you can export that data under Tools. You can export that as what they call a DCF, data conversion file, and Contact Manager will read that. And what the DCF is nothing more than a 1.21 code plug. So Anytone kind of provided a way around that because they knew that it was important for folks to be able to use Contact Manager with the radios. How many of you guys are running Anytones out there?
Nope, Connect Systems.
I don't think anybody in this group has that brand.
Yeah, we have TYTs, we have CS radios.
Okay, I'm the technical support manager for Bridgecom Systems. You're familiar with them?
Yes.
Okay. I am authorizing our customers. These Anytones are flying off the shelf, guys. I'm out of them. I was selling them at 10 a day. We couldn't keep them in stock. Since the first of the year, we've gone through 300 of them. And out of that 300, we've only had 4 flakies come back. So it's a very stable radio, and we're at 1.26, and it walks on water. But the Anytone format change pretty much put the skids on it. So it is the radio of choice now, and we're at the latest and greatest firmware, and I do a full support on it on our Bridgecom site. And I've also got a video up on how to create a code plug from scratch using the Anytone CPS, which is a good, you guys know as well as I do that once you've made a code plug in one manufacturer, you made a code plug in basically every manufacturer. It just has to tweak it a little bit. So, and go from there. But I'll let Tom go back at it.
Okay. What I'm going to do is just kind of demonstrate, we're going to make kind of a la carte code plug, a Franken plug. You guys ever made some Franken plugs?
I think I have, yes.
I make a Franken plug from several different radios. When I got my Anytone, I was working with the CPS. I'm going, this sucks. I say that about most of the CPS programs, but this sucks. So my reward is I will get to use my radio when I get the software done. So I happen to have bought a Connect Systems CS800.
Anybody have an 800D? Can I have the call letters of anybody with an 800D?
One of the MD380s. That was kind of like my go-to radio.
CS701.
Yeah, the CS701. So I'm gonna combine some code plugs together. Now, probably everybody has seen here. I think you can see me pointing to stuff like, basically when you open those up, like a fresh code plug, it may have one or two contacts in it. With Anytone radios, Anytone is a model that segregates talk groups and contacts, and the Terra radio does that as well. And Contact Manager is very, very smart in the way it handles that. It will show you all of those in that pane. And if you ever use a contact in a channel as your transmit contact, Contact Manager will automatically promote that to a talk group for you. So when your CPS reads it, it'll be just fine. And there's like some default channel 1. I never would have guessed channel 1. I'd see it coming. Some kind of flaky zone, and you usually can't delete the default zones out of radios because the CPS will cough up blood if it's a zone. Some kind of default, no scan left there. One receive group. So I'm gonna make a Franken plug. So here again, I got a blank 868 code plug.
Could be a GD77, could be any of them.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what it is. And I'm going to go to structural import. We'll import selected structure. And I've got a CS751, so I'm just going to navigate to that folder. So there's my CS751, and there's my code plug as of November. My 701 broke, so I had to get I just got a 751. And I'll import that. And now, since we're demonstrating it, software will crash or something, we'll see. Okay, so out of that, it opened that 751 thing. There was a whole bunch of contacts in it. There's 40,178 contacts, 49 channels, 4 scan lists. So it's kind of a small code plug.
Well, guys, I'm going to step in here for a second and tell you right now. It operated real fast on Tom's computer here, as you saw. This computer is stripped down to nada. Mine does not work that fast. Do not be surprised if it lags on yours. Okay? Tom has a very special computer that does amazing things that has nothing on it that can run at the speed of light, where I'm shocked at how fast it goes sometimes. So this is a very, very quick return on this operation.
Oh yeah, this is my slow computer, by the way.
He doesn't always brag like that, guys.
Everybody okay with what I've done here so far? You're still there?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay. And when you go back into this thing, okay, you can see it pulled a pile of contacts in there, right? Now, I could save this code plug. In fact, I'm going to you can do the F12 or save as, so just so I don't really box things up, I'm going to save this as a test code plug. Which is always kind of good that if you got some kind of base code plug, you don't wipe it out. Now, one of the things that the Anytone does that will make you salivate just a little bit is the Anytone can populate all the fields. Now, you can tell me how come they're not populated here then?
They came out of the Connect Systems radio.
Chuck! Yeah, they came out of a radio, don't populate all that stuff. But you know what? It's not a problem because we're just going to go over to DMR mark, and this is going to kill the hotspot in Chuck's phone.
Yeah.
It just pulled it right up.
Yeah, we have this lagging internet over here, guys, so I'm on my phone hotspot. So if we disappear, that's because the battery crapped out. No, we're all right. I'm at 10%.
And this computer is kind of slow, but we're just basically pulling up the United States.
Earlier this week, the entire worldwide DMR mark database was just over 90,000. When I started a few years ago, it was at 18,000 when I registered my first number. I have a Kansas City and a North Carolina because I was in North Carolina for a while.
Yeah, it's just kind of working and chewing its way through that. So, okay, what I'm gonna do is I don't like the way my contacts look. So down here in the database searcher, I'm gonna click the box that says refresh contacts. What that's going to do, since this is a code plug with extended field to the contact, by doing that, I'm just going to tell it to add everything it found. Time passes, so it pulled in and refreshed all of the contacts in that code plug with all of the fields. When I go back inside there and give it a second to think, another second to think, not touching it, but let's go down here to now it's basically all those contacts are now refreshed with all of the fields that come to DMR mark. So that's what that refresh control does, is if somebody changes their call sign or something like that, you can refresh it. It'll go back and fetch that row from the database again and stick it back in the radio. So a lot of people are not aware of that. Dirty trick number 37. Okay. You guys okay here so far?
Yeah.
Any questions?
No.
Okay, you want to see a dirty trick?
Little, what do you call it, Easter egg?
Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to highlight some contacts here. I'm going to use the context menu and copy them. Okay? A lot of stuff, when you copy it to the clipboard in Contact Manager, it's just text. If you come over to, I guess I've got the computer's been wiped a few times, come over to Notepad and paste, you can see what you're copying and pasting. That's just kind of nice to know that, if you're futzing around, you want to say, hey, what actually got copied or pasted, that's what did. That's the data that's inside Contact Manager. It's just pulling the rows out of the database and showing them for you.
Are the models?
Go ahead.
What was the question?
Are the model numbers of the equipment they're using listed in that?
Barely hear him. Yeah, I can barely hear you. We're going to have to turn the audio up over here.
Repeat what I said.
He wants to know if the model numbers of the equipment they're using is listed. Are you talking about the contacts equipment?
No, yeah. For instance, so I can search for Connect Systems 800D.
I don't think
Can he search by radio?
I don't think you can search by radio in the contacts. It says call sign name.
Oh.
Right, yeah.
And then your DMR ID.
Yeah, that's a good question, but it's not in the information. It's there. What you can see is when you load a code plug, there on the right, under radio type, you'll see the kind of radio that you're working with. A lot of times you're going to see that drop down is grayed out, like I'm tapping on it, nothing's happening. For some of the radios, like an MD380 or a CS701 or some of it, you can actually change the code plug type. But for most code plug types, you cannot do that. But that's the only place where you're going to see the radios identifying information in the radio type.
Yeah, the reason why on the older MD380, 390, 701, 700 series is there was only one digital bit in the actual code plug that differentiated between the different radios. So that's why you'll get a drop-down box on those radios, which you won't on the newer ones. Remember, those were the first generations. Rock solid first generations, but those were the first generations.
Right, so essentially they had the same code plug format with just a little bit, one bit of difference in there. So now, making the Franken plug, I've got this thing here. I can probably get rid of that garbage zone, so I'm just going to delete that and say bye. Then I can, see the zones that are in there. Like there's a zone there, NOAA Crown Town. It's just like some zone I stuck in just to work a special event, put all the frequencies in for the special event. And now I'm going to go back because this thing only has, when I look at my channels, it only has VHF in there. So that's a VHF radio I pulled it out of. I'm going to go over to structural import. I'm going to snack it again. I'm going to pull in, yeah, I'm going to go to the DMR software, and I'm going to go to the MD380. And I've got quite a few people that help with codeplugs, and those are the guys. I'm going to try to pull one that's reasonably okay. So there's an MD380 from Larry Staples. And I'm going to import that stuff. This computer is kind of slow. Okay, so there he pulled in another 108 contacts. It pulled in more channels. He's got more scan lists. Got 21 zones. And so now when I look at my list of zones in there, well, I got a ton more zones in there now to work with. By the way, when you we had somebody ask, well, when I do my import, can I choose my zones? And the answer is no. And in fact, when you import zones, you will often, if you see a number placed by a zone, like there's one that says KC Analog 1 in the bottom. Can you guys see that? See that one there?
Yeah.
Okay, notice the 1 on the end of it?
Yes.
That's because when we imported, there was already up here someplace, there is a KC Analog in position 5. So Contact Manager is going to pull that zone in, and of course, somebody said, well, can't you just pick and choose it? And yeah, you can do this two ways. One, you can, do the import and delete the one you don't want. But in this case, those zones are going to be quite different because one of them was out of a VHF radio. Like there's KC Analog, it's got all VHF stuff in there. And then when I go back and look at the one here that was KC Analog 1, it's all UHF stuff out of a different radio. The alternate route you can use, if you want to pick and choose your zones, just open a second copy of the software. Go to your, open up the other code plug, go to the zone you want to copy, and let us copy that one, copy it, switch back, paste it, and it's gonna force you to use a different name.
The reason why he's mentioning this is this came up, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Facebook support group. I'm the one behind that. I created that to suggest and help Tom with some of the offload on emails. It came up this morning, actually. A guy did a structural import. He noticed a duplication in the zones. And once I had some coffee, I realized, well, you could just open up two windows and copy the zones over that you want instead of doing a full structural import. But this little topic right here is derived from my conversation with Tom that yes, it will do that. That's how it's going to do it. And if you don't want that, then there's an option to do it how you want. So as you guys know that have used it, and I know, Tom's software is very user-friendly and very forgiving at times. So for all the glow stick moments that we might have doing these code plugs, Tom has made it a lot easier.
Yeah, and we've received very good feedback from users as well that it's caused, every time you guys find a bug, tell us. We'll fix it, because when we fix it, then somebody else is not going to have that same trouble. So we want to know if something's not right.
If I can't answer it, if you're on the Facebook group and I can't answer it, Tom will tell you. I will copy the post verbatim and send it to Tom in an email, or I will ask the person that has that problem to go into detail in an email to Tom and describe it. But we will get to it as soon as possible to get it taken care of.
So anyway, we built this Franken plug. I guess if you weren't careful, somebody could think we were saying something else. But anyway, it's got a whole bunch of really screwy stuff. We got a pile of channels. You can probably sort that stuff out. by the name. One of the things that Chuck came up with a lot was Chuck is standing up a whole lot of DMR repeaters. We're talking a whole lot, and putting that into other radios is kind of a pain. So I came up here a few months ago. We introduced something called a mass change. How many of you use the mass change operation? Are you even aware of that? What that does?
I have not.
I've had to use that.
Okay. You'll either like this or hate it. But here is a bunch of, I just highlighted what are all the talk groups on a repeater. The Garmin, this one is you can guess, it's located in Olathe, Kansas, the Garmin headquarters or thereabouts. And it's on the roof. So what I'm going to do is I like the way that's set up, but I'm going to go stand up another repeater on UHF with the same talk groups. Okay, another part of the city. You guys with me?
Yeah.
If you did this, you would have to manually copy all those channels and then edit the names and edit the frequencies and all that kind of nonsense. It's not very much fun. So what you do with this software, and this works with any radio, anything you can do with one radio, you can do with any other radio. Right click mass change, and you're going to get a nice dialogue.
Where was mass change? Where did you click on that?
Okay, let me cancel out of this. I was in the channels tab, and I highlighted one or more channels. Right.
Just right click.
And it's also it's probably in the in one of these menus under the edit menu too, so you can pull it up there. Yeah, this is bad as Microsoft, isn't it? So anyway, I'm going to change. Let's put this up. Let's put the new thing up on 440. Let's put it on 442.100. Change. We're going to click change the offset to a positive. We're going to name the channel. We're going to any place where it says Garmin. We're going to change it with Olathe. And you can prepend and append text on the name. So okay. For example, if you want to say, let's make it really special, put a star there before it if you wanted to. Now, down here, that last box is real important. It says make a copy, which means it's going to make a copy of it, then it's going to put the changes on it. If this is DMR stuff, the middle part's going to take effect. So if you want to move stuff, for example, you got a bunch of channels on the wrong time slot, come down here, don't mess up the top, come down here and just move the time slots. If you want to change the talk groups and all that kind of stuff, you can go down here. And then down on the analog channels, we don't care about analog, do we? That's right at the bottom. Anyway, once you click that, you got 11 channels, 11 new channels, and if you go down to the bottom, see all those star channels down there. And so every one of those channels, as you go through them, now has the right frequency, the right offset. They have all the talk groups and the other data has been copied. Everybody okay here? Any questions on what I did?
No.
I think we're good.
Okay, now, the other thing about this is okay, you built all these channels, let's put them in a new zone. So, right click and click Zone Wizard. And basically the Zone Wizard is going to tell you exactly what's going to happen. That status box in the middle says exactly what you're going to be doing. For example, I can come up here and really type. It says a new zone, code Olathe. Now if I type into something that's an existing zone, it'll come back and say, well, there's already an existing zone. We're going to add those 11 channels to it. So it's dynamic stuff. So we'll say, well, let's call this zone Olathe. It'll put in the 11 channels. And then if you want to make a scan list called Olathe, that's cool. Click the box, and it's going to make a scan list. It's going to have all of those in there. Then if you want to put all that scan list on all the channels in the zone, which is usually the way people program DMR stuff, click the bottom one, Then when you're in the zone correlata, it's going to do that. Bam, make the changes. And now if you go back to your zones, you will see someplace in there. No, it's just the zones wherever it was left at last, it's going to be. There's a lot of zones in this code plug. Yeah. There we go. It's going to be the last, because it's going to be the last one in the code plug. If you go to reorder, it's going to be the last one. And of course, if you don't like that zone or its channels, you can delete them. But there is that zone set up there. You can see it's got all the channels in that you requested. You can right-click. Another thing people often forget is that you can edit channels right from a zone. So you can right-click on any channel in a zone and go into the editor and pull that channel up and make the changes. When you do it there, that's a global change to the channel. So any other zone the channel's in, it'll be changed. So anyway, that's kind of a new way that we're thinking, because what that allows us to do is stand up the new repeater, account for it, and not have to manually program all the stuff in the code plugs.
I want to ask you guys, you notice that we've covered a lot of stuff, and on the mass change, you might have noticed the omission of receive groups. How do you guys run, do you guys use it outside of the GD77? Do you guys out there use receive groups a lot?
I have them in my code, and a couple of my code plugs.
I have them in some of my code plugs too.
All right, do you like them or not?
What's the difference between a receive group and a talk group?
I don't particularly like the receive groups because some of the, maybe I'm mistaken here, but some of the Brandmeister channels are dynamic, and they will override some of the other channels because of the way receive groups are set up. I don't particularly like them.
Yeah, we're the same way, and my reasoning is being a sysop is, I mean, the Anytone has pretty much precluded the option of receive groups. It's in there, but you don't need it because it does have dual time slot monitoring, and it works like a champ. You hear everything on that repeater. But you get back to the point where you have to pay attention to what talk group they're on. And that's what the problem that we ran into with receive group, or quote-unquote promiscuous mode on the NV380s, is guys would park on our home talk group of BYRG at 31201, and they'd hear somebody on another talk group that they wanted to talk to, and they just pick up, squeeze the pickle, and start talking. The trouble was, they weren't coming out on the talk group they needed to be on. They were coming out on BYRG and lighting off 20 repeaters on a one-sided conversation.
That's the same problem with all the TYTs. The 2017 has the same problem.
Right. And you can run into it with so I've asked our users to minimize the use of receive groups. None of the code plugs I put on BYRG have receive groups active in them, and it's helped a lot. It's really prevented any problems that we've run into since we've done that, taken that aspect on it. So, and of course, we're all under Brandmeister down here, and we don't even have any DMR marks. There's one in St. Louis, is the closest one, and one in Springfield at Rayfield Communications. That's about it. Up in Omaha, there's a few. But everybody else is going Brandmeister out in this area. So that gives you an idea what we're looking at, too.
I don't like receive groups at all. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to take them out when I get home.
Yeah, receive groups are very, very bad.
And I don't like promiscuous mode either.
What is that? Define what you're talking about.
I don't like promiscuous mode at all.
We're still talking about radios, right?
I don't like women, I don't like radios, and I don't like promiscuous.
Well, I understand that. From my aspect of a repeater owner, yes, I like it. That way I need to, make sure that things stay above board. But as a general user, I don't see any point in it, agree?
Yes, but I don't, I don't want to listen to every other talk group like you were just talking about. Then you punch the button and the mic button, and you're not transmitting where you think you are.
That's true.
And I think it should be removed.
I agree. I I agree from a user's aspect. My repeater owner side of me takes over on that, so yeah, it's a great thing. Like, you know, that's it's how the sys-op decides who wants to run the repeater. It's really not that big of a headache on DMR Mark because what you see is what you get. But on Brandmeister with 1,000 talk groups that all dynamically are user activated on both time slots, you can really cause some headaches. So
yeah, I'm having that problem. I'm having that problem with a lot of guys use TAC 310, and they've turned it into nationwide as a instead of a calling channel like it used to be, into a rag chew channel, and then they're keying up every repeater everywhere.
Right. Well, we do not have access to 3100 USA here in Kansas City. And I'm understanding, number one, it's turned into a cesspool. I listened on the Wild on Hose Line. I heard guys physically threaten their amateurs on there. And I don't need to jeopardize our club license. So we made arrangements to get that off of our systems. Yeah. I understand TAC 310 is going down that same rabbit hole.
Yes, it is, and it's busy 24 hours a day. And if you got that promiscuous mode functional, you try to get away from it. You can't even change to another zone or another channel.
Exactly. And what about the poor guys on hotspots that bring it up?
I'm one of those poor guys. I tell you, it was interesting. Somebody fell asleep with the mic keyed the other night, and you heard snoring for a half hour straight.
Oh, where's this on an analog radio?
Yeah.
Oh, that's 2.9. We got a dual mode repeater here. Somebody was on DMR.
Yeah, that shouldn't have opened as well. That dumb stuff's turned on, so it's kind of odd.
Well, they turn off the timeout timer. They turn off the timeout timer.
How do you do that?
Yeah.
Software. And the plug.
Yeah, each channel has a separate timeout timer setting.
Yeah. Now,
let me ask you this much. If you have a problem with that on a Brandmeister system, I need you to email us at dmr-admins at repeater.net. All right, that's US admin's email, general email. I get it. N3FE gets it. He owns 2 of the masters. N2NUO gets it. N6BWM gets it. And Corey can go in there and put a couple-minute timeout on certain talk groups related to your repeater if that is an ongoing problem. I don't know what kind of hardware you guys are running, but 3100 has burned up 2 repeaters in Kansas City on Motorola XDR 8300s. So,
yeah, well.
Just don't send those guys to 31201.
We'll send them to TAC 312 instead.
Yeah, well, trust me, the administrators have had a lot of discussion about TAC 310, especially since the blow-up on the net a couple weeks ago. So.
Yeah, I turned it on last night, and these 2 guys were down in Tennessee or Kentucky, and they were talking about how to make bootleg whiskey. That went on all night.
Wow. Now, please, when that happens, drop an email with the call sign so Corey can look into it. Yeah, this is amateur radio, guys. We're supposed to be self-policing, or policing. And it started like that when I was in 70, when I first got licensed in 79. There shouldn't change now because of DMR. People need to realize it, you know? So, anyway, back to the software.
Yeah, software good. You guys, have we helped you here so far with some of the newer pieces? Do you guys have some specific questions or things that you want to talk about?
Yes, does everybody have buttons P1, P2, P3, P4?
Oh, we're having trouble hearing you, and it's echoey, so can you get closer to the phone or whatnot?
Yeah, he was asking about when you guys do your code plug, what do you put on the, what do you guys like to use for the push buttons on the side of the handhelds? The 4 buttons, 3 on the side and I guess 1 on top.
When I devise our code plugs, it's a generic My K0XM's design of the code plugs. And that's what I was getting ready to say. I do it as a simple layout for what I think the user may like, but it's not my radio. So the user themselves need to play with that. And that's why we got away from a general overall AT, you know, an anytone code plug, an MD380 code plug, an MD390 code plug, a CS800 code plug on BYRG.net. Using Tom's software, what I've told our users to do, and this is getting people more and more involved in writing their own code plugs, is I'll throw up a general overall code plug that was up to date till last December of all the repeaters in the metro or in the Midwest. Any additions from here on out, I have what do we got? 35 UHF and 15 2-meter repeaters, individual systems. I have 2 columns on a page that's called the a la carte code plug page. And what it is it's an MD380 based code plug. All the contact lists maintain the same between each repeater. The only difference is the channel information. So what people do is they get their radio, they get a blank code plug for their radio, an Anytone, a CS800, whatever, and they save that code plug. They open it up in Tom's software. They open a second window of Tom's software, and for each repeater that they want to add to their code plug, they do a copy or a structural import from that individual their radio code plug, and then they go into CPS and tweak the back up the way they want. Now, all of my code plugs have a generic number of 9,999,999, and it does 2 things. Number one, Brandmeister does not know what to do with it, so it shuts it down as a local repeater. It does not. It shows up on the network, but it doesn't give you the keys to the castle. You can't do the parrot or anything. Number 2, watching the dashboard, I can tell when somebody's got a new radio, they downloaded the radio and the code plug, and they didn't bother to put their DMR mark number in there. So I'll turn on the radio, find out who they are, and call them and say, hey, hopefully they'll do a verbal identifier. You tell them, hey, could you put your number in? And that'll help a little bit there. So it's helped a little bit on that. But as for the button assignments, guys, it's your code plug. It's your radio. All I can do is encourage you to play with it and pick your best layout.
And I would recommend you choose carefully. Like you can see it here on the screen, here's an Anytone setup. And we got a few radios that got into a sideways slide here locally. The dealer somehow got their master code plug with some of these functions turned on, like the man down function. It was somebody lone worker. Yeah, lone worker, and they set the thing on the coffee table or whatever, and an alarm starts going off. Yeah, so stuff like that, you really kind of want to make sure you do that. And if you guys like, we can take you over to the, point you to the BYRG website to, point you to where the a la carte stuff is. I think that's a real good approach. Is start off with a known working core code plug and kind of go from there.
Plus, it makes the code plug writer life a lot simpler. Every time a repeater pops up, all he's got to do is just copy the main code plug, change the data for the repeater, save it under a new name, change the name of the zone and the title of the channels, and put it up to where it can be downloaded. And then if the user wants it, then the user pulls it down and merges it in using Tom software.
Tom, TOM software?
That's got up here.
Define. What is Tom software?
Tom is the author of Connect System,
Yes.
or the contact manager. He's the author of it.
N0GSG.
Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah, that's what you see on your screen here is the contact manager. The reason it's called that is back in 2015, the goal was really just to work with the Connect System radios that we'd all bought,
Right.
and go over the DMR mark and pull the stuff down into them. And then I started getting a lot more requests. Well, can you that really works cool? Can we work with channels and scan lists and all that? And so just kind of over a few months, I'd worked through that. So that's how it's got the way it is. But there's a lot of things that they're not in Contact Manager that will probably never be. For example, we will not be manipulating the settings peculiar to your radio. For example, the buttons. And why not? Why that isn't is because that's not easily described in a common language, if you will, that every radio can understand. It's just something that's like, I'm more of a keep it simple kind of a person. There are things that I'd like to see it do. For example, how many of you have tried to print your code plug out? Just a ticket and sit on the back deck and go through it. Oh, that many of you? Would you like that option? I know I would.
Oh.
It'd be nice to do some audits, to have some output where you can do an audit on the contents and things of that nature. My background is in two areas. It's basically in engineering and in education. So, mostly I like stuff that works, and it's nice to see. I'm kind of like, I like to see it printed out. Who I work with often say, let's print that out, and I'll take it home and work on it, and kill some trees. So those are things, other ideas that we've been thinking about for a while, but I don't have a good solution to is, if I go from one area to another, I can do some research and maybe connect with a radio club in another area and find out, what the repeaters are, how they're structured, are there restrictions, what are the rules, and then I can kind of build a code plug in advance. And I know some of the radios, like the Connect System CS580, have some kind of adaptive capability. You can turn it on. I guess it will, if you know the frequency, I guess it will read the talk groups and stuff that are in use, all that. But kind of in looking into the future, I'd like us to get to the point where we don't have to work so hard, messing with code plugs, and spend more time actually using DMR. So we're looking at, I've been thinking about this for a while of how could we go about doing that. I don't have a good answer except that likely be some kind of web-based service, and we'd have a lot of problems to work through. For example, how to validate the data, because a lot of DMR networks are in the process of being built, and as the architects figure it out, they sort it out, they got to change it, and so it isn't like going to the repeater directory and looking it up and saying, bingo, it's there. So those are some things that I've been thinking about as how to make it better, go further. We are going to support more radios, obviously. We've talked about that. But, basically, this is the tool I use day in and day out. Chuck uses it day in and day out, and so it's, as far as the DMR part of my ham radio life, this is the way we do business, and we want to make it easy for everyone to use this, and we're not going to do things like, next year we're going to change the way this looks just because it's going to look cool. We don't do none of that fifth grade stuff.
Well, one of the things when I give my talks around the Kansas City area, folks, and I start out and tell everybody is, I think everybody that's active in DMR will agree, it ain't your dad's ham radio. We got a whole new learning curve to go on this thing.
Hey, Tom?
So, yes.
Okay. I need to write something down real quick because I have a hard time remembering things sometimes. I would like the email address because I'm going to ship you the code plug I talked about. How do I find your email address?
Just go to the Contact Manager webpage. Just Google N0GSG. It'll come up #1 in Google, and just ship me an email from there.
Okay, because I'm going to ship you. I'm going to ship you that the code plug for the one radio you don't support, and then another one that you do. But I use Contact Manager on both on everything except for the GD77. But right now, there's no way to cut and paste between GD77 because it'll come up saying radio unsupported or something like that.
Yeah, it'll come up and say I don't like that, and I'm glad to hear you getting use out of it because we got lots of different radios that are being supported, and mostly Chuck does all the work of doing that. I've got a few people I help, but I tend to mess up code plugs.
We all do, trust me. So I'm sure you haven't ever messed up any code plugs out there, have you?
Well, it took me over a month to write my first one. I had a hard time finding articles, and nobody knew anything about it.
Well, I cheated. My my first DMR radio, I bought a CS750, and it was preloaded, so I took it and reverse engineered it.
Yeah, mine was from a guy, KD Cubed, and he had a gigantic, massive code plug that he stuck in it on the entire East Coast.
Yeah, I know, because that's exactly where I got mine also, because I was in Jersey at the time. I met the guy and his wife.
Oh yeah, I know him fairly well.
Yeah, so you and I, we both got our teeth the same way, right?
Yeah, I have his newest code plug. I'll be happy to send it to you.
No, well, I don't, you know what? Since I started, all there were DMR marks. Brandmeister was still an infant.
Yeah.
You know, so, and there's a mass migration because of the versatility of Brandmeister. And, I mean, look at Indiana. Tony Tolbert and I spent hours up at Dayton talking about it, and then next thing I know, all of their Indiana, Tony, the Hoosier DMR stuff's on Brandmeister. You know? It's just that the availability of all the talk groups on Brandmeister is a very enticing hook for a lot of the users. And the simple fact that once you've got, all you got to do on a repeater is just point it towards the master, and boom, as soon as it's logged in, you got 1,000 talk groups on both time slots. Now, that's good and bad in the simple fact that I have had users that have put the wrong talk group on the wrong time slot and come out on both of them and wipe out the repeater. So, yes, it's a diligence that has to be taken care of. Tom's software has helped me on that immensely. So...
Yeah, and one of the things that's helped us, for example, is you have a bunch of channels, like here I'll scroll down. I don't like, here's the ones with all the mission. That's the mission repeater. I don't like it. That is USA. Yeah, well, it came from my MD380, you see. That radio has probably been turned on a while, so let's get rid of mission USA. So that when we get rid of that, it's gone from all the zones that we're in, of course. So it's all gone. But let's, like here, this one here, this is correct. The way Chuck said it's supposed to be for us locally. And he's got the BYRG on time slot 2, everything else on time slot 1.
Right. That's how we run our systems out here. Is we keep BYRG is our local talk group, and we keep it clear on time slot 2. And that's the other thing I want to offer you guys. If you guys want to come here to Kansas City, anytime you want to talk back on the Virginia talk groups or whatnot, use the repeaters. Just I asked, do it on time slot 1. So let all your members know that they're free to use them when they get here, okay?
Yeah, what does BYRG stand for?
Backyard Repeater Group.
Okay, that's right. I remember the front slide. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the Berg.
Yeah.
Like as in you will be absorbed by the Berg.
We started that because that was a comment by a club that was supposed to put down a bunch of us independent repeater owners back in the mid-'80s. And we banded together and said, we'll take that name and run with it. And we have for over 30 years. So, there's a little history page up at byrg.net that you can read about what happened. So...
Yeah, I like your slogan though, because we felt like it.
That's right.
Where is the P1 assignment? How to put some on?
You don't transfer over the buttons. They call them buttons. You don't transfer those in the software. What he's saying is individually programmed. You program it in your own code plug for your radio.
That's right, because those are not included in the feature set, and every manufacturer vendor sets those things differently. So, it's something that could be implemented, but I think the gain would be very small by doing it. Our time is better spent on implementing more radios.
Yeah. And it's really hard because what works for me may not work for every user. So.
Yeah, well, I do code plugs for a number of people, but they're going to accept what I put in there. I don't make any changes.
I understand.
Because there is no system, so I use Al's system.
Well, I agree, Al. And we've got, what have we got now? Probably about 300 users in the Kansas City area that are downloading the code plug. At least 300 users in Kansas City. in the Midwest, and I did that too. And then I got to thinking, yeah, that's great, but to help alleviate some of my burden, I wanted the people to start playing with the buttons, and then I went to the a la carte, and it's like, here, figure out how to do this, guys. I'll help you. That way you can make it, and it gives them a warm and fuzzy feeling too. So,
How do you get to the buttons?
The buttons are done in your CPS software by your radio. The specific programming software for your radio.
It's on the opening page.
When you download the software that goes with your radio, it's in that. This is only managing all the contact stuff, the repeaters and the groups and all that.
Yeah, we have somebody here who's trying to learn how to do his buttons and things. He's asked a number of times now. We're trying to explain, when you load your CPS software and you look at the menus on the left side, you go down to where it says buttons and click on that, and it'll open up the page.
Oh, okay.
And then you can change it there.
What kind of radio do you got?
800D.
He's got the CS800D.
Okay, CS800D. Oh, okay, let's go over and mess with one of those. It just so happens I've got that CPS on this box.
Good.
So let's just open up one and just point right to it. So here is, CS, I think mine's a type 2. Okay, so here's my code plug from my CS800D. It looks like the last time I updated it was December. And you go over to the general settings, and you'll see over there it says buttons.
That's it.
Oh, okay.
Now you make sure you save everything before you change everything.
Right, sure.
Yeah, and then
Show the example of the button layout and on the microphone.
Okay, so like,
Scroll down and turn off the help down the bottom of the control.
okay, so like,
There it is.
kill that.
Alright.
Okay, so like down on the button, on the microphone,
Keep going down.
keep on going down.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so like,
See, there's your button previews to tell you what buttons are in the CPS, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you can do the same thing on the microphone.
yeah, and I've got, here it says microphone, but anyway, I use the CS800D in my car, and I don't even see the radio.
There's your microphone.
I just use the microphone. I don't look at the radio. You guys hear the station coming in locally?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I just use the microphone. I usually leave it in one zone, use the up and down buttons on the mic, and I'm good. I can reach. But right now the radio is kind of behind the seat. I can just reach over and I signed the twirly knob to be the volume. That's it. So
how old is your 800D? Is it one of the new models?
He's got a new model.
Yes, new.
Okay. I was on the phone with Jerry last week, talking about his different revs on that. I had one of the original ones that came out. It was rock solid.
So, yeah, and mine is too. I think I'm at firmware version. I'm just going to kind of look to see. I'm going to tag what firmware version I'm on.
Yeah, I mailed it back to California, and he put the latest in for me.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm on the latest or not, but I'm on 20.11, I think. MS 20.11 is what I'm on, and it works fine.
Well, I can tell you this about the CPS drives the same for all the firmware. There may just be different additions that were increased in firmware, but the buttons should be the same. And you'll have a drop-down box on each one of the buttons that you can click and show him.
Yeah. So
there'll be tons of options for you to play with. Pick one of P5.
Okay.
No, pick P1. Pick P1.
P1, okay.
P1.
So there's your short, like you can tap it. You
Look at all the options.
tiles up there. And I think that for some reason mine set the zone up, which is stupid, but anyway.
One thing I wanted to tell you I found on the CS800 software, and actually all the Connect systems, if you guys ever run into this, he's got, let me pull this down here for you. He's got monitor, where you see that right there, and then he's got another one that's called digital monitor. Let me find it. Okay.
Is there a low power, high power
Yeah, you
switch
use it.
there?
Yes, there is.
Yeah, it's way down there.
There it is.
Switch right there.
Okay.
And that'll step you through to 3 levels. You got low, medium, and high. So each short press will take you to another level. And it goes, he goes low, medium, high, low, medium, high, low, medium, high in that order, okay?
Hey, Tom,
Perfect.
what I did when I programmed my buttons, when I give a guy a code plug, I had made a Word document out of the buttons and what they do, hand them to them, reduce them, and so they can put them in their wallet and keep it with them, because they'll never remember the buttons.
Yeah, I think that's a good system. Good system. And it's like me, I just kind of reduced it down. This is where I just need to use the mic. And I'm smart enough to use the 3 buttons on the mic, and I'm good.
How many long press functions do you use in your code plugs?
How many what?
Long press?
Oh, the long press, I might use 3 of them. I don't, off the top of my head, I can't tell you what I have. I have to get my wallet out of the coat where my thing is.
What's your cheat sheet?
Yeah, my cheat sheet, which I left down in the car. But no.
One issue that I did find was, and this is relating to what Tom had talked about the dealer and the host of code plug, was number one, I got to the point where the long press was really messing up a lot of our users, so I eliminated those. I went to a minimal type button type thing. But one of the problems was, especially on the Anytone, was that the dealer had sent it out where right below the push to talk button was a button, and if they pushed it, it would turn off digital encryption. And it drove us crazy for a week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know when I was here, and it just sounded like, scrambled.
Yeah.
I don't use encryption.
Well, it's illegal. You can't use it.
I know, but when did that stop anybody?
Well, that's true. I mean, listen to 310, right?
Absolutely. Learn how to make good whiskey.
When they're talking about how to make the moonshine, just have them turn on their encryption. It's all good.
Well, it really gets bad when they talk about what they did in bed last night.
I have a question for you. I've noticed that for some reason I've been receiving SMS messages off the network. Have you guys been seeing those? I'm getting about 1 every other month. And I only noticed it because my one of the radios makes like a phone ringing noise when it receives one.
Did it tell you who's sending it?
It does say who's sending it, and I've received about 4 probably since this winter, and I didn't realize it until the last one when I was asked why my phones were ringing like a telephone, and they were generic, hello,
Was it a Taiwanese station or a Argentinian station?
I don't think it was a U.S. call sign. It actually came across from a Motorola XPR 6550. It's the one that rang. And then I could go back in there and look at, there's a little envelope icon on that display, kind of like the the earlier Connect Systems GUI.
I was getting that from a Taiwanese station one morning. It drove me crazy. He kept sending me, he heard us on 31201 off Last Heard on Brandmeister on the way to work. And he started sending me text after text after text. I thought he gave me back, please stop. So
I wanted to.
Yeah, I randomly got that also.
Okay, I was just wondering because I just noticed it here, the last month or so, and I realized I had a bunch of them in there that I had never noticed. I never knew I had.
You have to clear them out next time you get one. Please stop. That's what you said, though.
Yeah. One thing I'm sure you've run into that I wanted to mention also is I have an experience in Kansas City. Fortunately, we caught it, but about a year ago, somebody was going through and turning off and stunning the MD380s. And we had to check all of our code plugs to make sure that the remote kill and stun function was not enabled in the code plug.
Yeah, I'll have to go look at that now because I wasn't aware of that feature.
Yeah, the new firmware on the GD77s is kind of self-stunning, I've heard. They've had a lot of those stocking up on their own.
Hey guys, you keep working on the GD77 because now they have the S, which is totally voice controlled, and there are a lot of blind people out there that would like the voice controlled radios,
Yeah, we've got one of our major users is vision impaired.
and it's scary when we see him driving down the road.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. But I've got one in another club that I belong to, and he's blind, and he's asked me about the GD7, the whatever it is, the S model, simple model. And I said, as far as I know, there's no real support for it yet.
Have we compared it? Is it similar to the 77 regular?
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. I bet you it probably is, but I haven't seen it.
Well, Tom and I, it's interesting about the 77 because Tom, Jay, and I had a conversation earlier this week about that exact radio, on whether it was worth, I don't want to say headaches. You know the instability of the firmware on that radio, and it's caused us concern. And whether to put it in Contact Manager, but if we can lock it down to say this works with only up to like the version that you use,
yeah.
I don't see it. Do you see any headache in putting it in there?
No. But I have whatever I'm using right now is stable, and that's what I'm going to. I'll email you the version of firmware and the CPS that I'm using to load it, so you'll have both of them.
Okay.
And I will send that to you.
Yeah. All right, we've got enough here in town.
And the code plug.
Let us know the firmware. We can roll ours back, and we can do the testing. And it shouldn't take very much time if we decide right to get it in Contact Manager. Yeah, about 30 to 40 hours. It does take that time because there are about 120 API entry points. Each one has to be accommodated.
Yeah, I'm sure.
All of those have to be supported for a new radio.
Yeah.
So,
have you seen the HD1s out there yet?
I haven't seen that one yet.
Which one?
Well, we haven't seen any in town either, but I've seen a lot of requests coming across the Facebook.
Well, HRO, I talked to Steve. He's the national sales manager for HRO. He's down at the Woodbridge store. I talked to him yesterday, and he just sold 10 new Hyteras for a government contract, and he's told me they will be carrying them. They're getting rid of the MD 2017s. They've got 13 in stock. They're going to dump them because the vendor is not being good to its people selling them. So he's
that's a big surprise. It's been like that ever since.
Well, they're going to stop selling it, and but he's going to be moving into selling Hyteras.
The story is with HRO and the Zoom spot that went down last week too.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I use the Rob and I use the open spot. We use the Shark open spot.
Well, a real story here on the side about that, about the Zoom spot. The Backyard Repeater has been a supporter of KI6ZUM and Bruce ever since version 1 of the MMDVM came out. And I was working on an old Bridgecom repeater to interface it to a new version of the Zoom, what they call a IAT, to make a repeater, a DMR. And I could not find any information, schematics or paper-wise. And I contacted Jim and Bruce. And Jim come back and literally blew up and says, I'm not giving you a damn thing because of all the Chinese knockoffs. I'm going, wait a second. I've been a long-time customer. I'm asking for a schematic to tell me what the jumpers on the board are, and you're not going to give it to me? And then this thing went down last week with the Zoom spot. I'm wondering what's going on there.
I don't know, but a lot of people are having problems with the BlueStack stuff and the pies.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's all you hear about on 310. That's about all you hear about. If I hear one more thing about another open spot, BlueStack or Pi, I'm going to shoot somebody.
Don't put it on the air, we'll have to shut you off.
So we're there about an hour. Does anybody have any other questions, or you guys have a summary? It sounds like Al's going to send you some information on the GD77 firmware and code plug.
Yeah. I'll send you the code plug. Will be an attached file. I'll give you the info on the CPS that I'm using, and I'll tell you the firmware version. But you will have one attached file, and that'll be the code plug. And I'll take out my DMR ID and stuff from it so you guys can put your own in, okay?
And the call letter,
Yeah, that sounds fine. Also, if you guys need any support and you're on Facebook.
Oh yeah, I look, I'm a member of your group.
Okay.
the call letters,
You know, we try to get quick turnaround on questions, right?
Yeah, yeah.
the call letters of your smartest 800D, CS 800D user.
Oh,
I'm not sure if I heard your question.
I don't know, I didn't understand it.
What is the call letters so I could talk directly? And his telephone number maybe of the 800D guru.
I imagine there's a Facebook group or something for the.
You have to get on the Facebook group, that's what's totally
Something like
important.
that for
But
support.
can't I talk to somebody? Gee,
QRM from upstairs. Yeah. We got some local QRM here, guys. Somebody flushed the toilet. I'm in the shack. Plumbing joint right by the shack.
why can't I get that?
Hopefully this shall pass.
I wouldn't give it to anyone.
If you're asking about Facebook
Is it
groups,
No,
mine?
you're not a normal
Connect
person.
Systems
Thank you.
groups for the 800D.
Is that why you recommend for CS for that radio to get support? They have a separate group for that.
Well, the main group, Connect Systems with Jerry, that Jerry Wagner, the owner, created, gets you the best support because Jerry's on that board. Okay? So,
Call
look
it
at the Connect
Jerry
Systems
Wagner.
radio, and it covers all of them.
Call letter to Jerry Wagner.
Pick up the 800, call CSI at 800. 800, whatever the number is, and you can get him directly.
Do you off the top of your head know the call sign of Jerry?
The KF6 call, it's like KK6 or something, Jerry Wagner.
Okay.
But if you Google like CSI DMR, you'll probably get pointed to the Yahoo group that's running that.
If you just go to CSI, you'll get Chris's email, phone number, and you'll get Jerry's email and phone number.
Right, and they're both very, very, very supportive to customers. They're great guys to work with.
Yeah, this other guy who's making notes in here has dealt with them before, and he sent his radio back to them to have it updated.
Yeah, but they don't have call letters.
Okay, I just found the main group on Facebook. It's called Connect Systems Group by Jerry Wanger. W-A-N-G-E-R.
Okay.
I don't seem to have in there anymore.
Yeah, what is the name of what is your name of your Facebook group too? I've got so many things downloaded.
The Connect or the N0 GSG?
Yeah. Just NC0. Is it the Yahoo group or is it on Facebook? It's on both, isn't it?
Facebook. It's N0 GSG Contact Manager Support Page Official.
Yeah, okay. I have it, but I have so many different talk groups.
Well, you're like me. It's, but yeah, like I said, I'm a manager, and if you notice, I want to keep it to where we're just talking about the software. They're going to get so much fluff and distractions in there. And,
That's right.
Yeah, I don't see the stuff like a direct link to it here, so I think I've got it. You probably won't. Yeah. But yeah, on Facebook, just Connect Systems Group by Jerry Wagner is the best one for the 800. So, but I had good luck with mine when I first got it. It was occasionally hitting the wrong talk group, kind of randomly. Time slot. Time slot. Yeah, the wrong time slot. And, time slot hopping when he first got it. And a firmware upgrade fixed that. I was kind of scratching my head going, what's going on? Chuck's going, what are you doing? He was activating 31201 on both time slots when he first key up. It would go from one time slot to the other one. The wrong time slot to the proper time slot.
All right, well, I appreciate your time, and I think we probably got to wrap things up here.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys. to me, this is a lot of the fun of ham radio, is getting to talk to people, collaborate. I think what the DMR community is doing is just amazing. It's just really super creative. So, I mean, when Chuck is like a one-man army when it comes to making this stuff happen here. So it's pretty cool to see it all unfolding.
All right. Well, thanks again, and I guess if anybody wants any information, go to the N0GSG website.
Yeah.
And I know he has a donation page on there since it's free software.
Oh, by the way, I did donate, guy.
So I guess if you like it, you know, he's volunteering his time. So I'll put the plug in for you.
Yeah, and we do use the donations. We've used it to purchase radios, to reverse engineer. We've used it sometimes to support some of the operations of BYRG. So we put the stuff to use to basically reinvest back into that. And the fact that we have a website and a domain, that was possible because of donations.
You remember how I said on the Facebook group that Tom needs to take a break?
Yeah.
And that ain't working too well. Have you noticed that?
Well, if he gets a few more donations, he might.
Yeah, we're going to picture him with a Mai Tai sitting on the beach.
What's the problem with that?
Problem is, I don't want to see you in a bikini, okay?
Yeah.
I'll stand in the water up to my shoulders. It's all good.
All right, well.
He's been busting for a couple of years on this, guys, and I think everybody will agree that the break probably ought to do it. So hopefully after we figure this 77 and Terra thing out, he can disappear for a few weeks. So.
Okay. Well, thanks again.
Yeah, thank you guys. Pleasure. If you would do me a favor, and that is, when you send me an email, would somebody send me back an email saying these are the folks that were at the meeting that we talked to? Just kind of like to have this kind of the list of people and call signs and any additional
Signing
questions,
sheet.
and we'll follow up with those.
Pass one around. Yeah, we can. Yeah, we also, this will get written up in a newsletter that goes out and should have a distribution, I believe now around 200 mailed newsletters.
Cool.
So,
yeah, I'd be happy to see that too, any of that. But we, basically doing this, we're just establishing another relationship, and so we want that to be permanent.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate your time and your Saturday afternoon spending it with us.
No worries, and you guys have a great rest of the weekend and enjoy DMR.
All right. Hope we catch up with you on your talk group sometime.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. See ya. Bye.
All right, bye-bye.
7:30s.
73.
See you later.
Jason, could you send me a copy of this thing when you get it done? Tell me to pick it up, how to pick it up.
I will.
Thank you.
When I email him, I'll send you a blind carbon copy of it.
Okay.
I think I still have your email address over. I know I do somewhere.
It's just my call via the club.
Yeah. Tacos.
No, that's everybody.
Is tacos working?
So you want at AMRAD.org?
W3HWN@amrad.org.
Okay.
Is that still working? What's happened to tacos?
Tacos work fine too.